And we're live.
All right. Hello, everybody. Alexa, power to Command Center 1. I really wish this thing would get used to me. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight. And, of course, with me tonight is Techy Joe himself. As you guys are coming in, go ahead and comment so that we see you there. We will be talking to you a lot as we talk about this historic night, as it has been a historic night for every 4 years since 1784.
Absolutely. And hello to Shannon. Let me try on that lighting situation. Is Alexa, turn on Command Center 1? She just needs me more.
She does.
Hey, Brenda. Okay, she doesn't know how to say hi to Brenda.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Maybe
next
4 years we'll be able to vote by Alexa. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, can you imagine, though?
Oh, I can imagine how fast the results would be done.
Like, this would work great for me, but you struggle to turn on a light.
I think it would work fine for me, too. You just remember that I'm still working on creating my controls for her.
True. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, so how are you guys this evening? And for those watching in the future, hello to you, too.
Yep.
Sorry, we are running a little behind tonight. It is almost 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the amazing
night.
Well, yeah, and the amazing fun part of, like, we both had long days.
Uh-huh.
And so it was one of those let's nap but separately, you know, one of those lovely moments. And I swear, because we both said, okay, we'll set alarms, we'll be blah, blah, blah. And I swear he walked in and said, honey, it's time to get up. We need to do the show. And I went, oh, okay. And stumbled out of the bedroom and just walked in and started getting ready for the show. And I'm sitting here like, well, he hasn't sent me anything yet. It's like 5 minutes till. And I realized his butt's still asleep. He never woke up.
My body never woke up. Apparently, my spirit woke up, went in, told you it was ready for the show, and went, oh, fuck, I can't get the body back up.
Like, yep, sorry, down for the count. Please try your contact later.
Sure.
Yes.
Please renew yourself to the astral plane where you were created and belonged.
Oh, goodness. But yeah. Now, ours, I don't want to say that it pulls an attitude, or hers. Don't necessarily pull an attitude, Brenda. It's more so, it's like, I don't know, selective hearing. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just like she's sitting there going, I want to play a game.
It's more so she's sitting there going, you don't sound like an Englishman. You sound like a West Virginia. I ain't listening to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I also have the moment where I can half asleep tell her to, stop.
Yeah.
And she totally listens to that, but wide awake trying to tell her to turn on a light, and she's just like, I don't know.
Yep.
Oh, and Talia, I'm going with that. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, please help me. Has a question.
Sure. Let me grab a deck.
Yes. Do you have a deck?
I should.
Oh, use sex position tarot for this. This will be fun. It's a relationship, I believe. It'll work. Sorry, I keep trying to get him to use the deck. I think that one's hilarious. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as we thought it would be, but I still think it's hilarious.
You ever have those moments when it's like, I know I have something, just where the hell did I put it? For those who don't know, On Saturday, I done something I haven't done all dang year since July. So this physical year, I went back to CLS and done readings, which was fun. But there was 3 problems. One, my briefcase has grown legs and briefed out.
It's like, peace out.
Yep.
I'm done.
Yep.
Like, your briefcase went, screw 2020, I'm out of here.
Right.
Like, that's what it did. I still say it's hanging on the shelf, and you just aren't seeing it.
Here, I have took down everything on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
It ain't there.
Uh-huh.
You want to come back here? I will gladly take you out of stream for you to find it.
No, you're not taking me out of stream to find it.
Okay. So
yes, we did from Shannon.
Talk to you, but I don't know. You know, that whole day was a friggin' weirdo thing.
Yeah, you were kind of in blur mode. Like, you ended up with like 8 appointment slots, and all 8 got filled.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and some of those were running kind of long.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of a bumper crop to like, or a bumper car push to make sure we got the time you needed to wipe everything down. And it's like,
no one wants to set in Clorox.
No. Well, but it helped. Like, you technically had 8 slots, and someone showed up like way early.
Uh-huh.
And so you took that one. So I guess it did work out a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know like how to describe that. Like, someone misunderstood and got there at like noon. So that was cool.
All right. But it was really, I had to deal with a little bit of pre-show anxiety. I'm like, what the hell is this? I mean, I'm just going to CLS.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Well, but it's been a while since you've been out and in public and around people and doing the things and wearing clothes. Like, let's be honest. Like, I forgot what you looked like in a belt. You forgot how to put one on.
I did.
Or at least tuck the shirt. Like, that was cute. You were like 2 hours in, and I had to fix it. I'm like, no. I don't know what this is, but we're fixing it.
See, that's why I've always had a dresser. When I've done drag, I had a dresser. I think Psychic needs a dresser.
You know, no, you need a dresser.
Yeah.
Like, someone must dress you. It's sort of like you also have a carer, you know. Like, I'm your carer.
Yeah.
I care, so you don't have to.
Exactly.
Sorry, I stole a Doctor Who joke.
All right.
And I'm just saying that before, like, because I'm going to get called out. You know I'm going to get called out.
Well, is it going to, you know, cost us a copyright?
Oh, no.
All right.
No, I think everyone's made that one by now. Like, that was one of the best Doctor Who jokes ever.
You're right. All right, let's take this on.
Okay. And we'll be reading with...
We are reading with Energy Vibrations Oracle cards.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we actually have to interview the creator of these.
All right, well, I got a smiley face, so I'm assuming Talia is pronounced Talia. So, Talia, September 2nd, 1996. My question is, how does M feel for me?
Well, honey. All right. So with these, they're a little bit different than tarot cards, but it's quite interesting what came up. First card out the bat, the Earth Word. I would say he's very physically attracted to you. He wants to get more comfortable because we have Smell the Roses as your intermediary. And the final outcome is Homeward Bound. So looking at the 3, I would say that he has a lot of interest, a lot of desire, a lot of wanting, capital W, wanting for you, and that he wants to form a relationship.
Okay. Well, and yes, we are both well. We're both just tired.
Yeah.
Gotta warn you guys, this may be a short one tonight because we are both just drained.
But I think we're seeing drained across the nation, if not the world.
Well, yeah, we are. Well, and for us specifically, as Monday was kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a lot of stuff going on, and then the wonderful invisible assistant, unfortunately, has been having some dental issues, and so we were finally able to schedule an appointment for 7:30 this morning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was in a car for 10 hours today.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing good to be upright. So yeah, because then we had stuff last night that had to get done, and yeah. So I've had, I don't know what, 5 hours sleep spread across 3 naps.
Welcome to the world of Aeson.
Well, yeah, but you do better with that. Like you get 8 hours of sleep and you don't know how to function.
Not only that, but I feel like crap.
Yeah. Meanwhile, other side of this coin, I don't get like 5 hours continuous sleep, and I'm like, what? It's still Tuesday?
Tell you I could have done the appointment this morning, came home, took a lovely nap before my call.
Mm-hmm.
But you were like, nope, I've got it. And I'm like,
well, you know.
All right. You know, I hackle and hank over some things. Other things I just back on up and go, all right, let it ride, let it ride. Oh,
yeah, you didn't like. You did not want to be up and running today.
I didn't want to go.
No, you really needed the sleep. You really did.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, but yeah, hello, Mika. And yeah, back to Shannon real quick is he was absolutely flying around there, and yeah, your kids were done. They were capital D done. Stick a fork in them. Or, you know, the only way you were getting them to stay any longer was please deposit 25 cents. Like if she had kept dropping quarters like they were parking meters, they would have stayed.
Really?
Yeah. They found the gumball machine at Crystal Lotus.
Ah.
Like everyone does.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, if she had brought a roll of quarters with her, I think they could have stayed for a few hours.
We'll remember that next time.
Yeah, there you go.
Because we always have quarters now.
Absolutely. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that gets us caught up. Did I miss anyone? I don't think I missed anyone. And Kathy, if you're watching, you should be able to interact through Facebook. We figured that out, got that resolved. Sorry, we didn't get, well, true. We would love for you to be testing this out right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you can hop over for a minute, that would be amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, we think we figured that one out and got that resolved. I am sorry I have not gotten up with you, but crazy.
You should be able to get up with her tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, the one day this week that currently.
Remember, in the hour, don't you say it.
I know. Never mind. Not gonna say it. But I'm just, well, I mean, like,
all I need is to get an email going, can you come to California today?
Oh, no, you can't. No, like, that's where I'm at. It's like, nah, nope, not happening. Nope. Like, the only way you're going to California, even by plane, is by way of Jiffy Lube.
By way of Jiffy Lube?
Do what now?
What?
By Jiffy Lube.
Why?
Because my car needs an oil change before we head to the nearest hub airport.
No, we just go and drop me off at Jaeger. I fly up to Sensei, enjoy a couple cigarettes, and then fly over to LA and bitch out the attendant before I get out of the airport.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let me call that. Yeah, and you'll go to that airport and sit there till like Friday.
No, I won't.
Yeah, you will.
No, I can fly out probably within normally 8 hours to LA.
Okay.
Yeah, I've looked it up. It ain't that expensive either. About, $500.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought there were fewer flights out, like fewer hub flights out, because like there is not a direct Charleston to California. There cannot be. We cannot have that much demand. Like I would understand if there's like a FedEx flight that runs daily and we could box you up and ship you. Like I get that part, and I will totally let FedEx do home pickup.
What? We
What?
may be doing home pickup.
Do what now?
We may be doing home pickup.
Okay.
According to Expedia, they are advertising. Granted, I don't trust Expedia worth crap.
Eh.
Flight for $125.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, all the horrible times. Sorry, guys. Oh my goodness. Wow. You gotta love that moment you get on air.
Uh-huh.
And your sinuses are like, hi, I'm gonna take over now.
Yeah, I can fly out by 4 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Better than I thought.
Mm-hmm. And I spend an hour in Charlotte.
Of course. And that's what I said before is like honestly, we could get you there faster if I just dropped your butt in Charlotte. Hence, by way of Jiffy Lube.
Well, or I could choose to go to Chicago. I actually don't mind Chicago. It's a nice little airport. And I get a whole lunch break there.
Yeah, but when you use the southern airports, at least they have a designated smoking area.
True.
Yeah. Like, that's why I like flying through Dulles.
Yep.
Like, that's honestly it. I mean, granted, their smoking area is kind of freaky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it looks like someone went, how can we turn a telephone booth into a smoking area?
See, Sandseas is this lovely area that's like a lounge.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. Dulles is like this middle of the airport glass box.
Uh-huh. That's DC's.
Yeah, Dulles.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, DC's
DC has more than one airport. I know which airports I've flown through.
Cincy has like what used to be this restaurant turned into the Smokers Cafe, and they sell wonderful coffee. Most pleasurable airport to be in that I have ever been in. And I flew out of there like 3 times now. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. But no, I remember the airports just by the experiences. Like, I will never fly through Newark. I don't know what they do in Newark, but it doesn't smell good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they crack the seal on the plane and you know where you're at. You could be blindfolded.
Mm-hmm.
No ability to hear, and they will crack the seal on that plane to open the door, and it will hit you.
Uh-huh.
And it is just this burning copper, god-awful smell.
Uh-huh. We used to have that driving the Charleston now.
Oh.
When DuPont was all in it. Yeah, when DuPont was all active. Dear God, it smelled like someone killed something.
Oh, Mika's never been on a plane.
Oh, goodness, Mika. We got to fix that.
Yeah.
And she's in Cincy. Come on, you got a beautiful airport there. Nice flight people.
Well, giving a few things away, I actually dated a guy that flew me up. Like I was in college. I had friends who knew where I was going, what I was doing. I called and checked in. Like I flew safely to meet someone. And basically, I got flown up repetitively. Gotta love those $99 rates back in like 04, 03, 04. So yeah, it meant a lot of bouncing around though. There were very few direct flights. And I
Right.
have flown into some airports. Like Boston Logan, I dearly love, but what is it? Manchester, New Hampshire, the municipal airport there. Like, I'm gonna tell you now, in terms of like, you know, like terrorist attacks in the U.S. being stopped by the TSA, Manchester Municipal is on it. Like any other airport, I'll believe it. I'll believe someone went through their airport security with a bomb. I'll believe it. Not that one. Not Manchester, New Hampshire. You can't get on that plane with anything. Nothing. Zip, zero, nada. So yeah, it's like that was because I flew. Hold on one second. Oh, I can't reach it. I have a screwdriver on my desk that exemplifies it. I had in my briefcase because of a thing that happened at work that I needed it for, this long ass screwdriver. And I flew out of Greensboro, Piedmont Triad. I went, of course, and did the puddle jump to Charlotte Douglas. Stepped out of Charlotte Douglas and went back through the TSA line. I believe I had a layover at either Dulles or Newark. Again, stepped outside to go smoke because that was, if it was at Dulles, it was before I knew. But I remember I went outside, smoked, came back in through TSA, boarded another plane, and got to my destination. No one said a word. Return trip, I'm flying out of Manchester, New Hampshire, that little municipal airport. And that TSA agent looked like the only way I was boarding that plane is if she stabbed me with the screwdriver. Because she is like, what is this? And why is it on your person?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my, how did I make it here? Like, I figured, like, I lucked up. She was totally cool-ish. Like, there's TSA cool, I guess. In terms of, like, you ain't boarding a plane with that. Thanks, have a great day. You know, I didn't get taken in a room and probed. You know, not for lack of trying. But no, did not get taken into a room and probed. So, you know, I call that TSA cool. TSA was cool, man. They were cool. But no, I still couldn't believe the number of times I went through a TSA checkpoint and they never picked that up. Now, granted, that was like, 17 years ago. But, and it was a stupid fluke event. I did not mean to take that to the airport. Like, I've begun to believe people are like, I did not know there was a gun in my handbag. Like, I understand that now. Like, before that incident, I would have been like, yeah, you didn't know there was a gun in your handbag. Yet, no, I had a giant, and I mean giant screwdriver in my bag. I totally, like, the minute I saw it, I went, oh, God, I remember why that's in there. Which was a fluke work thing I needed a screwdriver for. Put it back in my bag. It fell to the bottom, and it wasn't in the way.
And that's the thing with, like, me. I carry a pistol. I forget which bag it's in sometimes. I walked into courthouses, walked through hospitals. It's right there on my side because it's this little. It's a little one. I don't carry a big one. Don't need a big one.
You got a little piece here.
I got one. If you come close to me and you ain't supposed to be within 100 feet of me, you fall over.
Or at least go ow.
Oh, you're going to go ow.
Well, I don't know. I think that gun is technically at the size that if you put your finger all the way in for the trigger, it'll get stuck.
No. But yeah, because it's a lady's double-barreled Dillinger.
Okay. That probably hasn't been cleaned in 50 years.
It has been cleaned within 50 years. It may not have been fired within the past 5.
Okay.
That's all right. Someone's supposed to be getting me another one.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah, working on that.
Well, it's part of our agreement.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I have seen, however, the things you do to like your bedside table. And yeah, like you first waking up, I don't want having access to an actual gun. Like the pea shooter, I figure you've got to get up and dig through bags to find it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with that one. Like by the time you find it, it is moved quickly from unintentional shooting to intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will be clear on that, not just have a moment of like, did he just shoot me with plausible deniability?
Well, that's why I no longer keep her in the bottom drawer of my bedside table. No.
Well, yeah, that's after the asshole incident.
Yeah, that's after the asshole incident.
Uh-huh.
AKA waking Aeson up in the middle of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And not fully awake.
Yeah. Yeah, he manages to hop out of bed, fall backwards against the wall, and because of his perfect placement against the wall, he is right between two studs. And his entire body weight, i.e. his ass, his entire body weight hit that one spot in the wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the asshole.
Yeah.
And filling that in on the wall, which you did finally,
got around to it.
Was literally like watching a
yeah, but I didn't rolled out of bed and literally opened up the door and reached for where I'd kept the gun. I had recently moved where I kept the gun because one of my nieces was going to be in the house, and you know, it doesn't need to be in the bottom drawer of a bedside table for a 2-year-old to go play in.
Right. Which was the grateful moment of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. But what did you end up pulling out is the next question. Like, what was appropriate for a 2-year-old to grab?
A remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure, because come on, guys, we're all adults here. We know that there are occasionally things in bedside tables that no, the 2-year-old does not need to grab that either.
No.
Like, she won't hurt anyone. But it's one of those like, Mommy, what's this? Moments you don't want to have.
Yeah. No, that drawer had the dead remote collection in it.
Oh, too funny, too funny.
Very too funny. But, you know, today's has been a very anxiety-ridden day.
It has. And that anxiety isn't really going to end for a few days either. Like, the best we're going to have is unofficial results on the election. And even those, like, there's kind of a double concern of potential riots.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that popping up all over major cities. Yeah, Mika, I went there. But we've seen that popping up, that fear popping up all over major cities. DC, I believe New York. You had a whole list at one point.
DC, New York, Chicago,
Mhm.
have boarded their stores.
Yeah. Like, well, and the White House is currently surrounded by a perimeter security fence
Yep.
to try to make sure that nothing happens there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I just wonder if he watching from the
Security fence for a while now.
but is he watching from the shelter? You know, like he did the riots.
You mean the protest?
No, there were riots.
There wasn't riots. There were protests.
I know.
It's like, give me a break. You grew up, you lived through the 60s. Granted, you were in New York protected by your father, but you lived through the 60s.
Hey, you know, when you have all the toys, sometimes you just have to play with them
Mm-hmm.
and be like, "I'm scared. Put me in the shelter."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we will see what happens with the election. Either way, we will move forward. Um,
Absolutely.
I hope you voted. I hope you used your right to vote. Anyone
Mm-hmm.
who is not a cis white man who owns land, key point there, who owns land, someone had to fight for your right to vote in this country. Cis white men that own land, people fought for your right too. Hope you got your butts out and voted. If not, I don't want to hear you complaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we are currently watching the results. I actually just refreshed. They still have Biden at the Associated Press,
Mm-hmm.
who is not called the race. I swear this is going to be an all-show problem. Has not called the race, but is currently counting roughly 131 for Biden and 98 for Trump on electoral votes. And we're starting to see the first reporting from Montana and, well, I think Montana. That's the first. Maybe not. Well, yeah, no, Montana, Utah, and Arizona. I think that's right there in the time zone change, isn't it? Like their polls should be just starting to close, right?
But yeah, Montana's just now starting to close. Wyoming's just now starting to close. Utah is now closed, reporting at 61%, and Arizona's at 72%. We still have not got the results from California, Nevada, Alaska, Hawaii, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington.
There you go. So that's where we're currently standing. I don't think anyone's in a rush to call this one. Just because right now in a fair number of areas and especially swing states, you know, which if you don't know what your swing states are, they are Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin. Like here's like the number splits for those. 53, 45, 47, 51, 43, 55, 59, 38, 43, 55, 52, 45, 49, 49, 46, 52, 45, 51, 47, 51, 46, 51. Going through that list. Like those are still like at best leads. They're not really unsurmountable numbers.
Right.
Like they're still it's all totaled a very tight race.
Yeah.
Because like looking at like the biggest split difference is literally only 60,000 votes in a lead, and that's Iowa.
Right.
But that's also only 19% reporting.
Right.
So yeah, it can swap around really, really, really quickly. So what also makes it very interesting in some elections. Like some elections, it's kind of from the first reporting, you're like, well, this is over.
But you know, we've lived through a few.
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing, you know, 4 years ago when we were waiting and when everyone went to bed thinking Hillary Clinton had it.
Well, yes. Well, I know I stayed up.
You stayed up?
Technically, I stayed up
Ah.
because I kept calling that one too close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that one's too close. It's just too close. Like, they were calling it like it was this major landslide, and I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. That can flip quickly.
Yep.
There's not enough to call that yet.
Right.
And then sure enough, it like quickly started to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh crap.
Right.
Like, oh.
But do you remember any of them? You know, I've seen Clinton get elected. I've seen Bush, Obama get elected.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember feeling this anxious about any of them.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that to some degree, I think everyone had a little more security in the idea that a change in leadership was not going to be a major sudden change in life.
Right.
Because if you look at each of those elections, they kind of all ran with like the gentleman agreement, you know, that we'll, you know, transition power peacefully. We will, you know, like we may argue and bicker, but we also have a pretty set Supreme Court. We have, you know, a fair idea of like what can, like how long things would take to change.
Right.
But what we're looking at this time is literally like we're flipping coins. It is the way I keep saying it. Is it like this is a coin toss?
No.
Like the election's a coin toss, and what happens thereafter is all a coin toss.
Right.
And it's like you can see two very distinctly different parallel universes sitting side by side.
Right.
Up until the election is called.
Well, and you know, it's going to be very, very nerve-wracking. Very, very long, and I don't even think it'll be settled tonight. Guys, really?
No. It's usually never settled tonight. Like, the best we're going to do tonight is a very clear lead.
Well, I think
where those exist
tonight is a very clear view of where the lawsuits are going to happen.
Right. We also have that. We have that, you know, already happening. But in addition, it's the election isn't over until every ballot that it's eligible to be counted is counted.
Right.
Typically, though, most races have already started to push one way or the other. So that it's like, even if you got every single one of the additional votes, you're not gonna break you're not gonna break it.
Right.
You know, somewhere around that 53% mark, you start to feel a little more confident. When you're at like 90 some percent counted, you know, and then you've verified. It's kind of all right. Like as they're starting to do the spot checks, then yeah, it's like, okay, this is pretty much a done deal.
Right.
But until you get to that point in which it's like every last vote that could come in has come in, and you're still not going to win if you get all of them.
Right.
Like if every single like, you know, Trump vote or Biden vote were to come in after the, you know, after tonight, and they went all one way or all the other, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
Like you just can't break that with the number of outstanding votes.
Very much.
But this is a very different election.
Right.
And that's creating a lot of that tension.
Well, it is.
Is
And I also feel like it's creating a lot more stress this year.
Mhm.
Not knowing, Nancy Pelosi may be acting president come November 20th.
November 20th,
Not November 20th,
January 20th.
January 20th.
Okay. Well, and I get that, but more so, I think the bigger issue with this one that everyone has to stop for a second is typically those numbers of projected additional ballots are based on historical absentee ballot voting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as in, we have a rough idea of how many we sent out and how many we expect to get back, and we've blown that so far out of the water.
Right.
That you could use it as a bellwether idea that like 80% of those will return or 90% of those will return.
Mm-hmm.
That say like 10% of people just either won't return their ballot because they decided not to cast a vote, or they went to a physical polling location
Mm-hmm.
despite requesting.
Right.
And historically, you could kind of go, okay, you're only talking about a few hundred, a few thousand applications.
Mm-hmm.
We're so beyond that. We're
Right.
so beyond that. That kind of even using that model might give you a clue what's going to happen
Right.
in the days to come, but it doesn't really necessarily work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're totally blowing the data set.
Well, not only are we blowing the data set, I think we're blowing historical record as the number of people voting.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that was a comment I believe I saw being made, is that the number of absentee ballots that have already been received
Mm-hmm.
actually is more than the number of people that voted in the last election.
Mm-hmm.
So there are more people voting in total,
Right.
just off the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still have physical, in-person voting.
Right.
So with that, you don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. You
Right.
may end up with, of course, your fair amount of first-time voters,
Mm-hmm.
or I guess you could call them occasional voters, the
Mm-hmm.
people that occasionally bother to vote,
Mm-hmm.
deciding that, okay, this year I'm going to vote. We may end up with a lot more of those people being represented this time.
Right.
Which can, again, kind of drastically change what that looks like.
Right.
Because those are usually voters that are only there because they feel it's a serious need to vote.
Right.
Or they have felt extreme pressure to vote.
Right.
Just because of, friends and family and the issues and everything else. And typically they're more, issues-based voters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're pretty much there for the issue, and then they're going to be gone. We
Right.
might, like, if the next 2, 3, 4, 5 elections
Mm-hmm.
don't have anything major going on,
Mm-hmm.
we may not see them.
Well, I think we need to keep them stirred up. I think that, we need to get back in to teaching the importance of voting.
Oh my goodness. So Brenda pointed out that her polling place said they had a good number of first-time voters. One lady was 60, and it was her first time voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. And like first-time voters, a lot of people are like, "Oh, just turned 18," and it's like, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. But it's important to vote, and not just the big elections, the small elections. It's like right now, West Virginia has had a standoff between their council and the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, finally, the pig-headed mayor has resigned.
Okay.
After the governor went over, Jim Justice, and said, "No, you need to go, dude." Um, so the town recorder is acting mayor, and in June, they're going to have to vote for a new mayor. Why is that important? Well, guess what? That mayor that they vote in, if they're young and bright and ambitious, could be state senator, move up to, House of Representatives, move up to a DC, maybe take out Sherry Moe Capito.
Or they may be a long-term mayor.
Exactly.
As in, not every person who gets into politics is necessarily looking for that and then one day runs for president.
Mm-hmm.
Like career politician process. Like they're not there for that. Like some people are just, they're very happy being the mayor of the town.
Right.
For better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's kind of run into that town once before, in which you can see what happens when you have a very good long-term mayor and when you have a very, very bad long-term mayor. And those are two very drastically different things.
Yes.
And typically what we see in elections is unless you have, a climate, so to speak, of issues that bring out those first timers and bring out the, kind of absentee voters. Until you have that, you can get stuck with incumbents.
Right.
Just repetitively, like, well, he's the mayor, so I guess I vote him for mayor.
Right.
Like you just keep that same mayor and keep right on a rolling until something happens.
Right.
And you get enough, so to speak, other people voting to change those numbers.
Right.
Because sometimes the elections are ridiculous.
Right.
When you look at voter turnout, that the numbers are so low that it almost makes sense that you have the same group of people that are lifetime voters. If there's an election, they're going to be at it. Like they may miss the primary, they might have an unfortunate circumstance happen, but otherwise they're going to be at that polling booth.
Yeah,
they will be there, but it's the same group, and they vote the same way,
right,
over and over,
and apparently, Kentucky enjoys being treated like the redheaded stepchild of the United States. They have again reelected Mitch
McConnell.
Yes.
Oh, well, and again, right now that's with the numbers that we have and the way that it currently looks.
Yep.
But yeah, and it's to some degree not surprising.
And the one that I'm finding surprising is currently Lady Graham is supposedly fending off Harrison, so Renna Boys will at least have money coming in.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and McConnell is currently at 58% of the vote count, over 1 million votes, but that's with 95% of precincts reporting.
Right.
There are still a couple of outlier counties that haven't voted yet or haven't posted results. So yeah, but no, it looks like a lot of it was not even close.
Yeah.
Like looking at Kentucky, a lot of that race wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And percentage wise, yeah, it's almost callable. Because he's at 58%, Amy McGrath is at 37%, and yeah, Brad Barron didn't really stand a chance, and don't feel bad for voting for him because it's not even enough percentage to matter. Because he got 4%, 80,000 people. Again, not saying that votes don't matter, but that's not one of those don't be angry at your neighbors for voting libertarian.
Right.
You know, it wasn't a split ticket. This isn't going to come down to being like, well, if that 4% and that, 37% were added together, yeah, no, it's not going to work.
Right. But it does, I would like to see there's two parties I would like to see more of. The
Okay.
Libertarian Party, I would like to see more action.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Green Party, I would like to see some more action behind you.
And I can understand that. And in West Virginia, we still have a Mountain State Party, don't we?
We do, but again, it's like, where are you?
And again, a lot of that has unfortunately been because we've become a two-party system.
For the moment.
Well, for the moment, but still, I think a lot of people are down to the idea, like they've latched onto it, is it's a yes, no, left, right, up, down. Like it's binary. And if you're not part of the major, if you're not part of the binary, you're just screwing up the results. I think I'm just saying a lot of people have latched onto the concept.
Right.
And that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it, the way the world ought to be. But it does unfortunately mean that's how the numbers go. And that's how a lot of people end up feeling in close elections. Is that, if you're looking at the winner had, 48%, and you're looking at the other two candidates, and one's part of the other major party, and they're sitting there with 42, and you got that little like 46 and change on, a third party. It's kind of easy to slam those numbers together and go, well, if all of those people had voted for the,
Right. But what I'm saying is I would love to see more of the European model, or candidates have their literally the Labor Party, this party, that party. They're all equally represented. They're all out there. They're all campaigning. They get equal coverage. We don't see that out of the Libertarian Party. We don't see that out of the Green Party. We don't see that out of the Mountain State Party.
Well, no, and that has a lot to do with the lack of, like, until that party has enough momentum, they're not given any kind of, like, seat at the table.
Right.
You might get one candidate through over here, so that there's, like, like sort of like the House or the Senate, it's like the sea of red, the sea of blue, and then this one little gray square. And it's cute when it happens, but the reality is, like, there's no intentional seat there for them.
Right.
It's not a system in which, there is a Republican set, there is a Democrat set, there is a Green Party set, there is a da-da-da. And you're voting for people to fill all those seats out of all those parties.
Right.
And that's what you're doing.
Right.
Like, it's not about trying to, overwhelm one side versus the other. And I think that has a lot of positive benefits to making that conversation more representative and better focused.
Right.
Because as we've seen in the U.S. with what has become a de facto two-party system, is we're just, playing musical chairs.
Right.
And it's becoming the, like, steamroller or, roadblock.
Right.
Like one or the other. It's either all against or all for. Which doesn't necessarily and frequently doesn't represent most people or even the best interest of the people they're supposed to be representing.
Now, a story that we were following and have been following, the Earthquake Friday, apparently a 3-year-old was pulled alive from under the rubble after 91 hours.
Oh wow. Gotta love kids being resilient.
Right.
Like, granted, this is, toddler age 3 now.
Yeah.
Everyone's grateful. I'm just those are always the moments like I don't know. I think a lot of people hate when journalists do the whole where are they now? Because a
Mhm.
lot of it gets stuck with like, celebrities whose name you forgot because they were only in that one movie when they were like 10.
Right.
Macaulay Culkin. Um you know, like really seriously, what has Macaulay Culkin done since? Like irrelevant.
Right.
But and I'm not bashing Macaulay Culkin, actually awesome actor for that role. But those are the kids I wonder about, like like the miracle kids, the
Right.
kids that survive these horrible events and da da da. I often wonder, like, what happened to them 20 years later.
Mhm.
You know, like what happened to the kids from Columbine that made it out alive?
Mhm.
How did, like, we get excited about that moment of these are the people who survive,
Mhm.
and then I feel like we forget that there's a rest of their life that they have to live. Like,
Mhm.
they're not just the kids of Columbine who survived and they like, yay, happy ending, roll credits.
Mhm.
There's a rest. Like, what happened there? Are these kids okay? Because they're not kids anymore.
Right.
They're fully grown adults. Like, what happened? Did they develop substance abuse disorders? Did they all get really depressed? Did they have trouble functioning after the events? Like, those are questions I end up with.
Right. And we've seen another attack this time in Vienna. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to be keeping an eye on the situations. But Vienna has at least 4 dead.
Mm-hmm.
Two people have been arrested, both claiming ISIS and hijab or whatever ties. Um, they moved fast on this. Like they went and like we're gonna go get them by.
Okay. Well, and that can unfortunately be the problem that happens there
Yeah,
is when you have hate-based violence, it's going to ping pong.
right.
Like, not trying to downplay it, but it's going to ping pong back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like watching a horrible game of ping pong.
Well,
Um,
this is the fifth ISIS attack. Count them. All
mhm,
five within the past 2 weeks.
right.
No mainstream U.S. news is giving it time.
Okay.
None of them are reporting on it. None of them barely made note that England, hello, our lovely listeners from England, sorry you guys are on the second lockdown. Wear your mask, wash your hands.
Hmm. Well, there is that. Right now, to even try to, I don't know where news is right now. I think a lot of our media has been accused of focusing solely on COVID. So
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to not do that and
Mm-hmm.
not be like COVID, 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 COVID. So that they aren't, necessarily guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry guys. It's gonna be that show. But
Well, I'm
no.
sorry, you're just spilling evil spirits out of you.
Oh well, good grief. Apparently it was a clown car today of evil spiritness.
Uh-huh.
Is what I can say to that. And like one of them has his hand caught in the door. And it's like, can you please get out now? But no, I think a lot of it is some of it, or at least some of it, is news media trying not to be guilty of the accusations being hurled at them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it's 2020 has been a year full of news.
Yeah.
Like it's like a decade of news trying to be crammed even into this 24/7 news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like rolling a camera with beautiful, and I'm not calling 2020 beautiful action, but in terms of a movie, getting beautiful footage and going, we have 6 hours of usable footage. We got to condense that down to somewhere around 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to lose a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that this wasn't great or a great scene, or, again, going back to the movie analogy, it wasn't that this wasn't good. It's that, is it necessary? And what do those minutes do for the total understanding?
Right.
Like, what do you get out of that?
Well, we get out of it a lot. We also have a hurricane coming in Florida. At ETA is looking at Friday, Category 4 storm. They have been pounded this year.
Yeah. Well, and that's after we've even had some remnants of Zeta come through. I think I'm saying that right. Zeta?
Yeah, Zeta came through. This one is spelled ETA. I really hate it when they do not give us like a real name. Like, can we not name the Hurricane Bethany and move forward?
I'm sorry, what did you say? Because ETA would be estimated time of arrival.
I understand that, but its hurricane name is ETA.
Etta?
Uh-huh.
Like, at last. Etta James? Or I think
like the car that sucked.
No, that's a Jetta. Ooh, sorry, any Jetta owners there.
But no. So we have a Category 4 storm. We have terrorists running around Europe. Mm-hmm. We have an election that's very nervous. We have wildfire fires still out of control. They're hoping that the snow will calm some of them down, especially the Colorado one. Yeah, the news program for 60 minutes of news, which breaks down to 48 minutes, could be doing a lot more.
Well, but you'll also notice that in that newscast, they're still trying to keep it local.
Yeah.
So there's local news and things going on locally. There's the national news and everything going on nationally. And you're literally trying to choose what's most important. And right now, this is the year of, like, it's kind of, so to speak, great to be a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
You got a cream of the crop here to choose from. Like, you have a lot bubbling in this pot.
Right.
All of it is newsworthy. All of it, like, I don't know, maybe I'm one of those newspaper readers back when we physically got a newspaper / news watcher until I got to the point I couldn't watch the news anymore. That would sit there and kind of have the, boy, it was a slow news day. Like, how long's that one been on the shelf?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just saved it for a rainy day when nothing else happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you just went, okay, roll it. Right. Like, we'll do that one today.
Right.
Local veteran turns 100.
Mm-hmm.
News at 11. Like, I think every small town network has one of those stories just sitting just in case that, okay, fine, run that, and it literally becomes part of the nightly news promo because nothing happened that day. Like, it was a quiet day. The world was okay. Nothing big happened. It was a slow day. It's a slow news day. Local veteran turns 100. News at 11.
Right.
Find out what 100 years on, in Kentucky has been like, whatever. And it just rolls.
Mm-hmm.
And hello, Ashley. Glad you joined us.
Well, what I'm saying is we have all these events going on.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I watch CBS. I will see very little about this. I actually have to go and watch German TV and get really weird Google commercials to actually get real news. I i.e., news from Hong Kong, China, Egypt, everywhere.
Right.
You can get that in any other country's news system.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a lot of that has to do with what does a slow German news day look like? As in, I'm begging the question.
Well,
The U.S. has been a shit storm.
uh-huh.
Shit storm.
Uh-huh.
Like the last 4 years, let alone.
Right.
Shit storm.
Uh-huh.
All of these events are newsworthy to a U.S. demographic.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's all these things going on. Not necessarily to a German news demographic. Like Germany may care a little.
Right.
Like,
well,
the U.S. has gone stupid again. News at 11.
Right. Well, something they're talking a lot about right now is our food and our grocery supply, and not only in the U.S. but also through the world, because California, Florida, both heavily affected this year, both heavily produced food for other places. There's also been a lot of famine in Africa. Again, major droughts going on, floods going on. And I'm talking not like, oh, we got 8 foot of water. No, I'm talking about rushing floods, like 20-foot walls of water hitting pure dirt and just blowing it out, going on across the world. That's what Germany puts on when there isn't anything, when Germany isn't doing anything.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I did go ahead and do a quick Google search just because I love the fact my favorite thing about the internet is there are resources out there. Put in perspective real quick, if you've ever wondered how big is Germany? It's between the size of Montana and Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about German news cycle, for instance, and what Germany is concerned with, you're talking about the same as a TV station in, let's give them benefit of the doubt, Montana. And what is Montana interested in? And I would say Montana, while interested in what's going on in states around it, is also going to be highly interested in things going and happening just across the Canadian border. Like in case Canada ever has a bad hair day. Like I can't even imagine being a Canadian news broadcaster. It's got to mostly be like the weather is cold, the U.S. is stupid. News at 11. Like, I just can't imagine being a Canadian news broadcaster. Like, does anything happen in Canada? Like, I firmly have this horrible belief, and I think I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, is that Canada is just so calm. And they're just sitting here looking at this void below them known as the United States going, oh, wow. But then again, how much of Canadian news makes it down is what I'm saying. Like, that's what I think happens, is that for a U.S. demographic, like, Canada is just up there. Like, they're just there. It's okay. It's cold.
All right. So today in the Toronto Star, we have the Corona news.
Of course.
We have now them recommending the federal public health is now recommending 3-layer mask. Trudeau and O'Toole vow to work with Trump while Sling calls on America to vote him out.
There is our America's fucked up news at 11. Got it.
Canadian introduces new Corona-19 rules for international travels. Trudeau announces that Canada and the U.S. border will remain closed until America gets a handle on the corona.
Hi, this is what I personally expect out of Canadian news. It's like, there's a virus, the U.S. is fucked, it's cold. News at 11.
Air Canada Rogue returns to the skies today.
That just sounds like a happy news.
Health records will be available on your iPad.
Local veteran turns 100.
Trudeau defends freedom of speech after outerly over comments on Paris attack.
Uh-huh.
Latest coroner news. Bank of Canada will maintain a certain level of policy rates until. I'm just reading the highlights.
Again, basically, there's a virus and banking is affected. This is what I'm saying. This is what I expect from Canadian news. The U.S. is fucked. There's a virus.
No.
It's cold.
Bank of Canada today maintained its target for an over-and-out rate of effectively lowering bounces by 1/4% and a banking rate at 1.5%.
Yeah, that's all the way into the finance section of the newspaper.
Now this is front page.
That's usually the part people have already put on the bottom of their bird cage unless they work in finance.
I read it and we don't have a bird.
Exactly. Like Ashley's with me. It's like nothing like Florida news. No, it's not. It's nothing like West Virginia news. It is nothing like what the rest of the U.S. is getting right now. It all seems so calm. Like it's called the U.S. is still stupid and there's a virus. Please be careful.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, these are off of German result. I mean, off of Google results for Canada because I don't have a Canada news station.
True. But again, this is what I'm saying I expect is like I can't imagine living in a country in which I can predict the news is going to be the U.S. is stupid, there's a virus, and it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. That's what the news is going to be. Like, why would I have a paper delivered to my house? I know exactly what I'm going to read. Stupid happened. And someone is being a little overly sensitive about, Justin Trudeau.
Right.
Like that. I mean, come on. Would that have even, Trump is overly sensitive to criticism. News at 11. Like, we know this. Like, no one's running that story.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've tried over the last 4 years. No one cares. Like, saw it, noticed it back before the election in 2016. We're good.
All right, so let's go over to Sky News.
Okay.
Police warn greater levels of enforcement for COVID rule breakers. UN target level raised to severe, meaning attack is highly likely.
Okay.
How the UK terror threat works. MP to vote on England lockdown as MP faces Tory backlash. UK reports 400 new daily COVID deaths. Religious leaders and clerks ask PM to reverse ban on services. Man arrested on suspicious rape charges after police appeal. Police raid a lounge with 150 people inside. Hundreds attend illegal Bristol rave.
Ashley, as to whether media in West Virginia is specifically predicting, I don't know on that one. I think that is so far beyond the fold. At this point, I think it's just kind of assumed. It's major national news here has been saying it.
Yeah.
Currently, our most local news station, WOAY, has literally changed their homepage to election results.
Yep.
Like, it is so far down the page. And then, of course, the trending stories are man arrested, woman is person of interest, Donald Trump wins West Virginia, Raleigh County Sheriff's Office conducts investigation. Because basically, hey, wow, we actually made it through that list with the top trending story this week is a man arrested for armed robbery at Family Dollar, not soliciting a minor and or rape. Go West Virginia. and WOAY for that being the biggest story.
Yeah. But
because usually it's not like that. It's usually a 14-year-old was solicited online, blah, blah, blah. News, unfortunately, at 11, because this has been our kind of unfortunate thing here. Like, I just want to know how big that grant was. I want to know how big that grant was, because it seems like that is all we have as a news story. Is someone came to West Virginia, someone in West Virginia went through West Virginia trying to hook up with a 14-year-old. And by hook up, I mean statutorily rape. You know, things you get used to, like, unfortunately thinking.
Like, did we know that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are in a libel suit?
No.
Did we know that 55 years ago, this street was the most racist street? What is it now in 2020? No.
No, again, a lot of, like, big stories are pushing these things, you know, again, below the fold, or more importantly, supplemental section F. Like, it's beyond that. It's like, yeah, that's would be great, but we can't even get there.
Right.
Like, Sunday's edition, maybe we'll throw that somewhere between, like, horoscopes and bridge.
Well, looking at the normal, and for those that wonder, I read DW.com. U.S. election. Germany wants a new deal after the vote. Opinion, dark and quiet November looms over Germany. Death, mourning, and the coronavirus. No one should die alone. Men are victims of domestic violence. I was paralyzed. What the verdict with the Scharnzen's New England Language Court? Coronavirus. German hospitals urge to propose non-critical operations. Court hears early details in Minister's Child Abuse Network. Charzy to European Capital for Culture 2025. Coronavirus vaccinating Germans could take until 2022, according to the chief virologist. Some words don't translate well. Coronavirus, how the German military helps fight the pandemic. Anna-fascia drama, and tomorrow the entire world is Germany's pick for the Oscars. How German schools miss out on colonial history. Putin and Scardy, a special German-Russian friendship under attack. Dark cyber bunker, trial break, and new ground. And that looks like a very diversified homepage. Yeah.
Just judging off of one day and the list of titles and what's going on, technically that is what journalism should look like.
Right.
But that still means there were a lot of stories to pick from to fill those positions. Like, it's a more diversified news.
Right.
Mostly. There's like a couple of overlapping, but again, major topic. Right. But no, I mean, it's a very, like, a little bit sampler.
Right.
Of all the things going on. I think a lot of U.S. media does focus on what's going to get the most hits.
Right.
And that doesn't sound like it's necessarily built around all of these stories are going to get clicked to hell and back.
No.
That's like, these are the things we really think, if you have a moment, you need to know this. Like, to be a competent citizen of the world, you need to know these things.
Right. Well,
like, even if they're
in their journalism style, is it isn't a flash and grab. It is, you've got to read the whole thing. Like that dark web cyber bunker thing. That's a 3-page article, and you don't get a conclusion to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Well, Der Spiegel used to be one of the biggest requests of what brief period I worked at the UNCG library. Yay,
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Library. Um, Brief period I worked there, periodicals room. That was one of our biggest requested newspapers. You would have thought it would have been New York Times, Washington Post. That was the one that we really seriously thought about having multiple copies of.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it could become a bit of a fight.
Yeah.
And like you would have a list for that. Like we had 2 or 3 copies of the Washington, if I remember right, 2 or 3 copies of the Washington Post, a couple copies of the New York Times. You'd have thought those would be the ones that would drive you crazy.
Right.
With people wanting requesting it. It was realistically just Der Spiegel.
Yeah.
Because it is a wide ranging.
Yeah.
And I do remember that.
And they break a lot of stories almost a week before we get them.
Some of it is that. Some of it is also the depth of the coverage.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of it's a lot of classic journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And with the diversified setup, you're not like one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're all political or you're all, local or you're all whatever. Like there's a fair number of, local stories, but it's not so like pushed and pulled.
Mm-hmm.
It was very kind of here's a like collage of the world today.
Right.
And what's going on. And some of it may be a little, maybe not something you're interested in. Like it's a finance article, and unless you have a degree in finance and you work in finance, you're not going to be interested in that finance article because it's high level finance and it's very out there, but it has important ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that does get lost though.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will say that is a paper that a lot of the writers are subject matter experts.
Yeah.
Like this is not, Tim who has a degree from the local college in journalism trying to talk about high-minded finance.
No.
And it's not that. These are subject matter experts. It's very much along the lines of ye old time. For those of you who haven't picked up an edition of Time magazine in a while, don't bother.
That is good for my bird cage.
Yeah. Time magazine shifted drastically somewhere around the late 90s, early 2000s. I used to love Time because while you would have like a focus for each edition, generally you had a bunch of other things going on in that.
Right.
And then it got to the point that somewhere in the 2000s, it switched and it was like, am I reading People?
Right.
Like that's all. Like so-and-so broke up, so-and-so got a movie contract, so-and-so did this. And I'm like, I don't give a crap.
Right.
I wanted scientific stuff and, crazy stories from, of totally different worlds, that things I couldn't imagine living through. That's what I associated with Time, was that it was going to be transporting.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it became People.
Well, and what I'm starting to see, and this is why I've abandoned, other than CBS, I'll watch CBS just for the anchor. They actually do decent there. But I've abandoned and started looking over here at UK and at Sky News, because they cover like Asian stuff. Now, granted, I have a large Asian populace. But there's still a lot of them that are like, oh my goodness, or Africa. Example, anyone in the US, any of our viewers know that we just sold $600 million of armed drones to Taiwan? Why are we not mad about this?
Or at least informed.
Yeah.
Well, and again, right now, it is definitely hard to be in a newsroom right now. And especially a U.S. newsroom, specifically looking at the fact that this is all about the ratings. Like this is about algorithms and what will click well and what will get the most reads and what will get the most advertising revenue pushed out by click. That's where we're at. Because a lot of this is being pushed on social media. And these same news agencies are stuck with they're fighting every other news agency. They are. They just are. And it's a nightmare.
Right. And to answer Ashley's question, Taiwan buys a lot of military. Like they have very, very, very bad poverty there, but their military are polished.
Welcome to the U.S. circa now. Like, how much do we spend on defense versus how much are we spending to end homelessness and hunger and, dying for lack of medical care?
Right.
Because that's literally the U.S. plan, is if you don't have money to pay, you're screwed. Die.
Right.
I mean, that's literally our official policy, is if you can't pay for your care, die. Like, it's not written, but what else do you call it?
Right. But example, in Taiwan, their military is to defend against China. They're like leading in that. But there's so many things wrong with this. The 600 million paid for 4 of these drones. They're QM9 Reaper drones. And they're evil. Like, they can carry high capacity missiles. They can, because their drones can go farther, faster, quicker. But I'm just curious because you brought something up.
Okay. And you're curious on, just so we don't have dead air,
the poverty level in Taiwan. Because we get told everywhere is poor.
Well, yeah. Well, we actually have a president who referred to basically the rest of the world as shithole countries. Just as a reminder, shithole countries. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they have a lot of poverty there. You're right. You brought that to my attention, and that hasn't been talked about for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, sorry, some things just don't change, and that's the sad fact.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, has been a strong, that's been an unchanged statistic since the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Again, trying to remember, like, some of the stuff that pops into my head is from Model UN. Like, sorry, guys.
Well, and here's something to think about. Our Virgin Islands that were hit 4 years ago by a hurricane does not have electric still to this day.
Yeah. How's that water in Flint? Did we just stop talking about it? How's Puerto Rico doing? Anyone back in homes yet? Have we gotten any FEMA money to them? Is the only one making money off of this Bounty paper towels?
Yeah.
Or more importantly, receiving money out of this deal, Bounty paper towels?
Strong possibility. I mean, we have half of California now in ashes. No reporting on that.
No.
Complete towns gone.
A very important local story. Like, I'm sure that if you go West Coast News, it's going to be major reporting. Right. But it's going to fall off quickly.
Well, and here's the thing. Do you know where I'm getting those stories from about, half of California being burnt and food costs may go up?
The other side of the world.
Germany. Because if food costs goes up in California,
Mm-hmm. Major food supplier for the world.
yeah, including Germany, who then has to go into chambers to raise the price.
Mm-hmm.
Because German have a controlled market. You are
Yeah.
only allowed to charge up to so much for a product.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, it does get a little scary how much news we missed, how much is hitting that cutting room floor, so to speak. But no, this is unfortunately what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been in that newspaper position, and that was back in high school with our stupid little high school newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Is sometimes it's like, that's a great article,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have room for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sitting, like we have all these other articles.
Right.
I don't have room for this one. I think it's a great article. I think it's a wonderful article. If I were in charge of the budget,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, pay for another, sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get me some more 11 by 17 and we'll figure out how to fill out the backside of it.
Right.
But there's no room. And that's unfortunately where we are. It's just what dictates that decision isn't the quality of the content or the importance of the content. It's solely based on what will people click on.
Right.
And right now, what people will click on are things that tick them off or things that will justify or confirm their biases.
Well, what's interesting to me in general, especially with DM, or DW, sorry, not direct messages, but DW,
Okay.
is that they will throw stories up that may not interest anyone, but maybe a small population. Auschwitz survivors Zimmerman fears the new Nazis today.
Mhm.
German Catholic churches is losing.
But now I would point out, like the story, like the article title you just read, to me, that would be one I would love to see specifically, because you're talking about neo-Nazism and Auschwitz in the context of German culture. And that's a far different cry from what we're seeing kind of bantered and thrown around in the US. Where we have literal neo-Nazis and, they're in Holocaust denial and all of these other things happening. In addition to white supremacy, like, I'm sorry to look tired while I say that, but in addition to, white supremacy and all these other things that are going on right now.
It is in your messenger box. It is video based, so you may have to translate it in Google, but it is there for you to watch.
There you go. Thank you. But no, I mean, that's kind of, those are stories that would interest me when you take them in context of like what is influencing this story.
No.
Like, as in, this is Germany. This is, a German viewpoint on a topic that's being thrown around the world right now.
Right.
And especially heavily in the US. And this is the country where this started.
Right.
Like, if you want to talk about German, excuse me, you want to talk about Nazis, this is the source. That's not a conversation had lightly. That's not a term thrown around lightly.
It's an important one. Because we are losing. She's 96. Survived a concentration camp. There isn't many who survived World War II with firsthand knowledge and firsthand accounts. We're losing them.
Well, because even if they were born in 1940, like just quick back of the envelope math, they're 80 now.
Yeah.
Like, you got to keep that in mind. We're talking, nearly 80 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people that are going to be able to intelligently remember the experience, not to lighten it, but the horror, the terror, and meaningfully engage with it, are pushing 90 and 100 and beyond, if
Mm-hmm.
they're living.
Right.
So that's a big part of this.
Right. Well,
Um,
like we lose a lot of history.
mhm.
In general, every year we're losing real history. Here's an example, and it has nothing to do with Germany or anything else. All right, y'all guys, my viewers, my patrons, y'all guys know I'm participating in wedding. Witching every day in November. If you're on YouTube or if you're on Facebook, go over to my YouTube and like it and watch the videos. But there's a guy who was talking 2 days ago about a meeting that he used to go to at the gay community center that was
Mhm.
probably one of the first gay open circles.
Mhm.
And because I commented, thank you so much for sharing this history.
Yeah.
And he's like, history? And it's like, yeah, that's history.
That's an event otherwise forgotten by time.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was in part lost in the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
That if you're talking about things that happened pre or during the 80s,
This
a
was on
lot of that got lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of that died out, and I mean that literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the members of that group, like the most likely cause of that group disbanding or
Mm-hmm.
ceasing to exist was people died.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that,
Period. End of discussion. Like, and that happens.
not only that, but people die, people move on, people, even outer members of the groups may not even be practicing the faith.
Mm-hmm.
People don't think it's important, so they don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
They just go on with their life, and it's like, oh.
Or more importantly, that it was life and it's not really thought about.
Right.
And we've talked about on the show a little bit. One of my favorite books is The Lavender Scare.
Mm-hmm.
And how that literally changed U.S. politics.
Yeah.
Not just politics, but the people, the
Mm-hmm.
representatives, their aides, their secretaries, their your big Washington governmental agency employees.
Mm-hmm.
There was a massive, in addition to McCarthyism, which was bad enough in the Red Scare, there was this gay panic
Mm-hmm.
that pushed a lot of gays out of DC.
Mm-hmm.
In that same kind of fear vein
Mm-hmm.
of this being a secret that could be used against someone, was the justification that
Mm-hmm.
could be used against someone for blackmail.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone with a security clearance, anyone with a high-ranking job, a lot of politicians stepped out of the way. They were, what we would now term closet gay.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it was just, this is the world we live in, and this is what you do.
Yeah. Um, that's why I encourage all my students to keep journals. You never know when, and we have a lot of books right now
Mm-hmm.
that are 101 books, like To Ride a Silver Broomstick, Uncle Bucky's Big Blue, that push this organizational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember talking to Lady Diana. Lady Diana never went to a class. She went to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
She went and hung out in someone's living room for a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
When we listened to Lady Maxine talk about her time in the 60s, she just remembers cooking a lot of food and a lot of people showing up and bringing food with them, and just coming and staying. Look at how things change and grow and build. You've got to record that somehow. Thank God it's for YouTube. That's going to become a great archive.
In many ways, yes. It is kind of, it is very useful for that. And for a visual history.
Right.
Because a lot of what we've seen post 1900 is the power of a visual history.
Right.
Like, it's one thing to read about an event. It is one thing to imagine an event as it's unfolding from a history book, but that picture, that being able to find the 1 in a million picture that just slams it all together can do so much more for explaining an event, let alone being able to effectively watch hundreds, thousands of hours of video and find the moments in which these are the things that will communicate what this was, what it is, to someone 50 years, 100 years later. Because when you're talking about the Holocaust, for instance, when you're talking about World War II, it's the images. Like, you can sit here and tell me that the Peloponnesian War was absolutely horrible and all these things happened and blah, blah, blah. I don't have a visual for the Peloponnesian War. I don't have a visual for the War of 1812. I don't have a visual. But when you talk about World War II, I have a visual. It pops into my head for World War II, Holocaust. It's tagged under a few things in my brain. And it is literally everything summed up in one image. And how in the hell did this happen? The atrocity of it, the inhumanity of it, the destructiveness of it, all of it in one image.
For me, it's the pile of shoes.
For me, it was the basically the pile of bodies. I forget what textbook actually showed that picture, and it was zoomed out enough it wasn't considered scandalous or angled just right. But it was just this pile of emaciated, nude bodies in the middle of winter. Like, there was a garbage collector strike. And it just says everything to me about how, why, what, when, where, how did this happen? Why would you treat people this way? How could you ever imagine doing this to other humans? To pile their bodies up like garbage.
Meekin has a question, and this is actually one I want to hear your view on, because you're the movie person.
Yeah. As to where we're headed. I've struggled to try to even put that into mental terms. I'm kind of with the people that were, making the, Handmaid's Tale comparison of a faction, which, if you move beyond the whole red and blue and, aquamarine and guys in suits and, forced rape for live births, part of The Handmaid's Tale, there's also the underlying subtext of a world that suddenly factioned off. There's
Mm-hmm.
no longer the United States of America that has collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
There are now factions of states and areas that are forming into their own, so to speak, de facto countries.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get Gilead in that story. Like, don't ever read The Handmaid's Tale and think that the whole United States just suddenly became Gilead.
Right.
It's an area, it's a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other parts of the world that remain the same. There are other parts of the world that did the same thing. I believe in that story, Mexico kind of pockets,
Right.
much like in the story the U.S. does.
Mm-hmm.
But Canada remained one united thing.
Right.
You know, and is now host to the former United States government.
Mm-hmm.
And is taking everyone as a refugee.
And to be honest, Mika, I don't know. I haven't watched much. For me to watch movies, it's very, very rare. But there was one, I think it was Download. Is that what you were watching?
Upload, the Amazon series, the Life After Death on a Server.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Upload.
Yeah, that's something that I would find very interesting.
As for where we're headed to,
Mm-hmm.
like, I think she was talking about like our future, and that's the one that keeps popping in my head is, I mean, I have repeatedly said I feel like 2020 was the year written by Stephen Moffat, George R.R. Martin, and Margaret Atwood.
And you
Like,
got to
they
remember,
got into a room, got really friggin' wasted, and this is what they banged out on keyboards.
right.
And the world is left going, what?
Well,
back it up. How did we get here?
right.
And it's like, and that kind of goes back to the Margaret Atwood thing of she got challenged on The Handmaid's Tale. Of that she was so creative to come up with this dystopian future. And she's like, not really. Like, paraphrasing a lot, but she was like, not really. There were certain key moments that if they had shifted just a little, this is exactly where we could have ended up.
Right. But again, I haven't watched. I've watched some of The Handmaid's Tale. I couldn't take much of it. We watch my blood pressure too often.
Well, that's kind of where The Handmaid's Tale starts. That's not where it ends. Like, that's the key takeaway, is that's not where it ends.
Well, I know, but
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, I think what I would hope is to see more of a global Star Trek arena than a direct, and when I mean that is Earth in the Star Trek genre, and it going through the changes, creating unification, and that's where I'd hope it would go to. But I think we've got centuries to get there.
Well, and it also pulls into question what all had to happen for there to be a unified Earth flying through the galaxies, you know, and a federation of planets and all of these things. What had to occur to get there? It's not like everyone woke up and went, you know, guys, what would be really great? And everyone went, yeah, that sounds amazing. Let's do that. That's not what happened. Like, there had to be a horrible history.
Right.
To get to a point in which it's like, okay, that happened. We're not doing that again. That was horrific. Never.
Right.
Now we've all got to come together. Like, sit down, shut up, put your shit aside, and work together.
Right.
I'm going through it
out a lot of stuff. If you look at the complete, ignoring the original I can't stand. Sorry, James T. Kirk needs to learn how to talk. Can't deal it with him. I can't even deal with him in the dang commercials that used to play on TV for Expedia. It made me stop even looking at the site. Or
really?
Really, I will not use either one. Anything he puts his paws on.
Aww.
But that would where my hope would be, that the UN actually becomes more than just a aid to desperate countries. That maybe we start seeing a more global view of things, because there is a global effect to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You may not think that a flood in Japan creates a problem, but it does. A flood in Japan affects our production of cell phones, laptops, mics, cameras, lights, makeup, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just looking at the pandemic itself affecting the world, and what this has done for students and workers and literally everyone. I actually recently was having kind of the review conversation of, like, I got hit with a client back in March that wanted to make sure that all their employees could work from home. And all of them needed decent computers with good cameras. And, we want to make sure this is hardware that lasts. It's not just disposable. And my first, I had the, slammed reaction in my head. The first part of me is going, oh, we should be able to do this for like $1,200 a user or thereabouts. It's all PC. And I'm adding up pre-COVID prices in my head, going, 12, maybe 1,500. Where we ended up is so much more than that. The machines that we could get a hold of started at $3,000.
Right.
Like, immediately blew my budget, doubled that. And then, okay, we've got to try to come up with cameras. The cameras that we use for the show are what I would recommend. It's the Logitech C920. I dearly love the cameras. They're great. They're easy to use. They work with everything. They're flipping amazing. The image quality, blah, blah, blah. We had just bought one before COVID. It's like $80-$90 at most. Or sorry, $70. That was what we spent. By March, that camera was now like $200 if you can find it.
Right.
Used cameras were going for $150. And it like, people are buying them. Like, okay, cool. Like, I found a camera. It's great. Whatever. I don't care. All of these things kept adding up, and the actual price per user was astronomically more. But then they brought in a new employee just a few months later, and those prices started to move back down. And it was just the surge in demand of everyone needing to work from home, and every other IT guy going, okay, think outside of the box. Like Dell is back ordered, this company's back ordered, HP is back ordered. If you're looking for what you would normally recommend, I had to go all the way up to gaming systems, and I told them that flat out from the front. These are gaming systems. This is way more powerful than what you need. But this is the best, most stable hardware I can recommend right now, because everything else is garbage.
Right.
Or back ordered. And it's like, yeah, your budget's going to be huge.
Right.
But this is what we did. It actually has worked out really well. And I'm kind of feeling really cocky, I guess, on that situation, is because this is hardware that will last. Like, these are, like, compared to what they're doing on it, these systems are like, what else you got for me? Because that's like 2% of my resources.
Right.
Like, you want to do something else? Could you play a game of Minesweeper? Please.
Yes.
You know, I'd like to warm up a little. My processor's chilly. You know, like,
bring it over to me. I can blow it out because heck, I'm already blowing this system out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just like the craziness of like this one event and the chain reaction of things that's come out of it. And you don't necessarily immediately think of that, like, no, IT went crazy. Like, we got a sudden demand. Like, every IT person in the world got slammed with demand for recommended systems, and how are we going to do this, and how can we go from having like 10 work from home people to like 1,000, 2,000, 20,000, 30,000 workers all around the globe at the same time.
I think, and if any CEOs who watch my stuff is out there, you would be intelligent to cut your business expenses, buy some laptops, and leave them at home.
But there are also fears with that. And there have always been fears with that. Is one, that's asset management nightmare. It really is. It truly is. When you fire an employee, what you ultimately want to have happen is you have total control of your assets, including your intellectual property and all systems and equipment and access methodologies, and they are locked out. Because the last thing you want to have happen is that user can go home, grab a company laptop that you forgot about, and log in. Sometimes that's just a factor of when that employee is terminated and if someone can shut down all the accounts. And like that has happened before. Sometimes a manager gets a little hot-headed, or an employee effectively quits before they quit. Like they've already pre-made that decision, and now everything they're doing is to the detriment. So that's already a bad enough situation. So there are a lot of companies concerned about the idea of having those assets sitting there. And easily accessible.
VPN and secure company accounts and secure laptops. Because I'm sorry, if who was it? There was a rental company that literally, like, they were renting out iPads, and it's like, oh, I don't know where it is. Yeah, you do. Here's the camera. It's in your bedroom.
Well, but you'll also notice a lot of hardware anymore is at least location enabled. So it can at least give you a rough location. But no, that's been a big part of, I would say, and I know this is not quite psychic coffee shop talk, but a lot of our IT problem with work from home is that ultimately for security and better control of data, control of information, control of access, being on site enables that.
But
because you have the ability to control the location.
Let me correct you.
Okay.
This is psychic coffee shop conversation. Reason being, hello, we pioneered this crap.
Well, yes. You are BYOD, for those of you who don't know, bring your own device. Well, now, true.
Now,
originally,
old days, oh no, each network sent their own system, and you couldn't have anything on there but their system. Believe me, when a certain network, who we will classify as Clio, it was very enlightening what the federal government could do And what they had access to come to every employee's home and do. And it was quite interesting watching them haul 6 computers out of my house.
Absolutely.
Keyboard, mouse, monitor, everything. They took the whole set. Yeah. So,
absolutely,
we pioneered this. We've got this down. All you have to do is go find an old business plan for a network, and you know how to run asset management.
But then you also end up with a slew of issues there. If you had quit those networks, for instance, how are they to, like, and assuming that network has hundreds of employees spread all across the globe, even not just the US, not just across the state, but the globe. And their location is at point X. Hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away. How do you ensure that you get that hardware back? Like, seriously, honestly ensure that you get that hardware back, and that that hardware is not reusable in any way. Like, and that becomes a problem. Some systems are just terminals. It's a dumb terminal. It does one thing, and yeah, you could repurpose it, but not really.
Well, what
versus it's got a hard drive, it's got a CPU, it's got a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor. You can load Windows on it.
Well, what was done back then is if you did not turn in your machine when you left that network, you A, didn't get your first check. I mean, your last check. And B, a sheriff showed up to repossess.
But that's if that company wants to or has the resources to do that. Because that is time consuming. And it's expensive. That can be a major expense, having a sheriff. Like, one, you have to, like, contact someone to go physically declare, you know, that you have what is effectively stolen property at that point, because you're refusing to surrender. So they're doing an asset forfeiture. You have to go hire someone, again, assuming you're thousands, hundreds of miles away. You have to hire someone to do that. You have to pay the filing fees to make that happen. That person has to come out. It's very resource intensive, and can sometimes be an issue of, is it worth it? Like, what level of system are you, like, potentially losing? You know, if you're talking about a bunch of $300 Dell Optiplexes from back way, you know, way back when, the fees you're going to incur to get that hardware back, keep your last check and say, screw it. Like, you know, good luck, buddy. Like, return it and we'll send you your last check. If not, whatever. But that's a problem like cable companies run into too. And we actually, when the debt recovery agency I was with, worked with a cable company. And that equipment, surprisingly enough, that stupid cable box, one, you can't order one of those. You can't be like, oh, we need 73 replacement units. You have to order a certain number. So that may be 100, that may be 1,000 or 10,000 units before they will even screw with you for your branded hardware cable box. This cable company was so small, they would literally waive your final bill, all the fees, everything. Just please drop the cable box off. That's all they cared about. And they were happy to pay us whatever we wanted to just harass this person to please turn in the stupid cable box. Like, you do not know how much it cost us.
Let's get to Mika's question, because you're going to have to tell this answer. I recommend the one I have that I haven't been able to kill.
Okay. So Mika says, do you have a laptop you would recommend for working from home? and one for music software. I need 2 laptops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's the thing. What you're basically needing is a work from home daily driver, as in, depending upon what you do, you're either loading basic office software, I'm assuming, or you're connecting to a corporate system and you log in and it's effectively your laptop is just a remote view screen for that system. Those are the typical use cases. With that, basically anything's going to work. All the way down to like the $300 Walmart special, stupid candy colored little, not a Chromebook laptop. That will work for that. That is basic business processing. That is what you get for about $300. Other side of your, yeah, literally you can grab, like if you want to, on the remote viewing, I would actually suggest, as crazy as this sounds, though not right now, it may not work as well. Check out pawn shops. It's a remote viewer. It has to do so little to function. You can actually wipe it at really old hardware, like 4 or 5 years old. You can typically pick this up for somewhere around like 70, $75 at a pawn shop. Like, pawn shops pay next to nothing for old hardware. They pay next to nothing for hardware, period. But like, unless it's a MacBook, and then you get a little more. But no, like an old PC, 70, 50, 100, somewhere in that range, you can pick up a pretty decent system that'll more than handle remote viewing. If that's all you've got to do, just make sure you wipe it off. And I mean that system wise, like you just totally wipe Windows out and load it back in. It'll work beautifully for that. As for a software for music, here's the funny part. Music, specifically music, not audio video, though, like a no video music, you really don't have to have that much to do. And I mean that seriously. The software requirements for music production are really low. So again, you're kind of in that boat of a couple hundred, few $100, more than enough. What you do want to look for, and what I would actually suggest, this is going to be the weird part, don't get a laptop for music. And here's why. The best thing you can do is buy a secondary sound card. Spend your money there on that sound card. And the reason is, if you're going to be doing music production based around MIDI synthesizer, which is a lot of what computerized music production ends up being, you're going to want that a more advanced sound card, that lovely piece of equipment to shove in, because it's going to give you better sound. It's going to have more integrated instruments that sound way better than the basic software MIDI synthesizer that now comes on modern computers.
Well, again, what's the Aeson Super Machine?
The Aeson Super Machine is actually a Acer R14, the R14 series. I dearly love it. It is a pretty awesome computer, Acer Aspire R series. Yep. I always forget the Aspire part. Right. Acer and R15, you'll pull it up.
Yep.
Or R14. I keep trying to make it a 15-inch screen, but it's not. Like, come on, stretch. Keep hoping.
That's my recommendation to anybody that is going to be doing anything on a computer. Get an Acer R, Inspire R 14, 15. Either way, don't care.
Yeah.
It has been the only machine that we haven't had to replace in 3 years now. I normally replace my computer every year.
Right. Now, Minka, the other part of this I would say is if you considered use like one machine, create 2 separate accounts. You know, basically make it a mullet. Call it a mullet machine. Get with me, guys. I'm trying to make mullet a thing again. Party in the front, business in the back, or vice versa.
Business in the front, party in the back. We can tell you never had one.
No. But no, if you do 2 separate accounts, what you can actually do with that is you can have the one account totally stripped down. There's nothing personal in it. Nothing personal in it. To connect to work. You end your work day, you log off. It's just like leaving the office, and you can log in as the party and have all your personal stuff all there and available, and it will for what you're doing. And I'm being very specific about music only production. You won't need a whole lot of hardware there to do music production. That's the weird thing. Audio, like video, is what drives a lot of the hardware requirements. That's your push. That's what drives gaming. That's what drives video production and editing for YouTube and everywhere else. It is literally just the amount of data to crunch on that system to do any kind of video editing. Audio is easy. Like, audio requirements haven't changed much from the early 2000s.
No.
Like, you could literally grab an old early 2000s machine and do some pretty decent audio to today's standards. Scarily enough. Maybe a little slow, but still, you could do decent quality, especially if you've got a really good sound card. That's your key there.
Yep. All right, Vanna, hit to it.
All right. So, of course, we want to thank our Patreon supporters, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, and, of course, the Crystal Lotus Shop located at 89 Old Main Plaza in St. Albans, West Virginia. If you'd like to learn more about the show or support us on or how to support us on Patreon, please visit PCSPnetwork.com.
Yep. And guys, I hope you're enjoying the wedding videos. There's 2 up. Patrons will be getting them a little early. I can't do the normal week early because I'm not even ahead and filming them. So you guys get them a little early as soon as I get them done editing, and then they go public. I hope you guys are enjoying the new end screen that does have our patrons listed in the videos. And in the break room, please, if you've got a suggestion on a witchy topic, make sure to post it in there so that I can do a video on it. I do have sachets on my list of attacks and greedy bags. That'll probably be sometime next week, or who knows, maybe tomorrow. All right, y'all. You have a great evening. Thank you, and see us on Friday when we will be talking about the election again and how it's going to affect the GBLT community. Because we do have our first trans senator. It has been confirmed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hot topic.
A very hot topic. Hope you have a lovely night. Hope you learned a lot. Thanks for hanging out with us. Bye, y'all.
Good night.